handing it over to the chairman to express our deep thanks to all of you for being here today, and I think it has been an amazing day. I remember a few years ago, Captain Tsakos, who was with us, and it was again the end of the day, and he stood up and he said, "This is the only conference I have been where people never leave." More people in the afternoon than in the morning. So, and that I think still 9 years in a row, and it holds true. So, saying our thanks, I'd like, of course, obviously, to thank the Deputy Minister for gracing us with her presence and insight and for the support that he gives us. I'd like, obviously, to thank the Cyprus Union of Shipowners for 9 years in a row being the lead sponsor, and actually, you know, we are here at the beginning at the invitation of Polis and the Cyprus Shipowners Union. I'd like to thank Safe Bulkers and Polis, obviously. And I'd like also to acknowledge the Colombia Ship Management team who have really been with us from the very beginning and are with us all over the world. I don't want to mention every sponsor because I might forget some, but I'd like to say that without the loyal friends and sponsors we have developed, it would have been very difficult to host this event, and we're absolutely grateful to all of you for supporting it. And again, I'd like to say that for us being here, it is not just a commercial enterprise, it is a commitment, and I think we are the only conference taking place year after year, growing stronger after year, and it's only because of your support. And in closing, please allow me to have a special applause for our chairman, who works tirelessly. Yeah. But also it is very good to say that we have with us the banks, all the Cypriot banks, the law firms, the classification societies, so it is really an international summit. Of course, we cannot compare to the Maritime Cyprus that the minister put together an exceptional event last October, but I think we're trying to, you lifted the bar very high, we're trying to come as close as we can, and I'm grateful for that. Thank you to all of you.
Okay, good afternoon. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. This is the panel that I think everybody's waiting. It's a panel that I have a great honor to moderate, so thank you, Nicola and Olga, for the invitation and giving me this opportunity. Obviously, today we had a lot of interesting topics that were presented and discussed. Definitely there are two areas that was a highlight in today's summit, and one of them was about the Europe's sustainability efforts and the ongoing debates around the IMO's net zero framework. So I'm setting the scene that this panel will obviously address through their own views about certain aspects of the current regulatory framework that is bothering our industry today. Of course, at the same time, we cannot ignore the rapidly evolving maritime landscape, which is being shaped by issues such as AI, ship management, ship finance, and the safety and well-being of crew. So, as I said, I'm delighted to be moderating the final panel of today, and I'm honored to stand here in front of you, welcoming distinguished ship owners who are well known for their active roles in the Greek and Cypriot shipping community. Next to me, we have Mr. Andreas Hadjiyiannis, CEO of Cyprus Sea Lines, Hellenic Tankers, former president of Cyprus Union of Shipowners, Mr. Aristides Pittas, chairman and CEO of Euroseas, EuroDry and Euroholdings, Mr. George Mouskas, president of Olympia Ocean Carriers and vice president of the Cyprus Union of Shipowners, and Mr. Polis Hajioannou, CEO of Safe Bulkers, president of Cyprus Union of Shipowners. I would like to express a special thanks to the Cyprus Union of Shipowners because the content of this panel have been very much, they have contributed a lot for the discussions that will follow. So without further ado, and before we go to the hot topics, allow me to start with the first question. which is about shipping has always been a judgment-based business involving decisions about assets, timing, and risk. Today, many of these factors are being challenged simultaneously and influenced by forces such as regulations, which we'll go in deeper later, technology, geopolitics, and operations. How do you see these dynamics shaping decisions for ship owners in the current environment? Can I take the opportunity to ask Mr. Pittas first?
Thank you, Nicholas and Olga and Cyprus in general. It's always a pleasure for me to be here. I would like to start and say it's a difficult life to be a ship owner today, but I think you won't like that very much. But no, it's a good time to be a ship owner because we have had, 5 very good years. What is going to happen from now on, though, is extremely difficult to predict. We've been through it, and I sat during the whole conference today and listened to all the discussions. And the one feeling that I get at the end is that it's so complicated, nobody can really predict what's going to happen. But one thing that I know is that in shipping, inefficiencies of the kind that we are facing today have always proven to be good. We strive on inefficiencies, increasing ton miles, TEU miles, all that is going to be good for shipping in general. So I don't want to say more at this point, but I'll come back with other comments later.
Thank you, Mr. Pittas. Mr. Hadjiyiannis, can I have your views on this one before we go to the hot topics of this discussion?
Do I push this?
Let me try.
Well, shipping has always been very risky business. I will tell you something. Shipping is not what people think. There was this famous study by The Economist. The best performing industries for the past 50 years. That was 1945, 1995, after the war. I'm sure you'll all be surprised that the best performing industry was the art, by 350% average per year, 50 years. Shipping, the Dow Jones, to put it in perspective, over this period was 15% per year. The US interest rate, the US dollar is the basis currency for shipping, was 7.5%. Now, shipping was just 7.5%. So, zero profit for 50 years. Yet in this time we had the Livanoses, the Onassis, the Nearchos, the Lemoses, right? But the Hajioannous, that, of course, that's it. I mean, 20 people, 30 people, but there were 1,000 Greek ship owners and another 100 non-Greek ship owners. So these people, they made their money not through shipping itself. They made the money through the good timing in shipping, like in every other industry. So stop thinking that shipping is a profitable business. It's a very tough, difficult business. In my career, which is quite long, we had 3, 4 very big crises. The 86, 82, 86 crisis, double crisis. Because no things like what we have today, you mentioned today, just the economy. We have the cycles in the economy since the Pharaoh times, right? And this will always continue to be. We had the Tiger crisis, if you remember, in 1999. We had the 11 September crisis. We had the Lehman Brothers collapse crisis in 2009. We had the 2014 crisis. We had the COVID, very recent crisis. So always for a very different reason, we have a huge, huge crisis. So what we're talking about is nothing different. Actually, it's a mild thing, the regulations and this mania, I should say, of the European Union to impose taxes, huge taxes, and IMO. By that, I'm sure you understand how much I'm against the net zero policies, which means $380, they say, per ton of CO2. Every ton of fuel has got 3.2 tons of CO2. So we have in shipping 1 gigaton, which is going to be charged, or was going to be charged, but thanks to Cyprus and Greece, all right, and to Cyprus Maritime, we started the whole process. Of course, without the Americans, we did nothing, but we started the process. By 390 per ton, is 390 billion a year tax on shipping. That makes, all right, it makes people wonder, where on earth are we going? It's the era of the lobbyists. That's the result of lobbying. It's not the result of common sense. Right? And how do they succeed? They succeed because the ordinary people who are going to pay the bill, because that bill comes to the ordinary people, to the lower class, economic-wise people who are going to pick up the bill. And of course, it will have a huge impact on shipping and will bring a new basis for a huge, huge crisis. So shipping has got to grow. It's been growing for 40 years, since there was 80 years, and it has to continue growing. With such a taxation, we're changing an era, and this is very, very dangerous for the ordinary people who cannot live without shipping. Everything we see around us, everything we live on, is being on board the ship itself, or its raw material, or some of its ingredients have been on a ship. Once we kick the shipping, then our lives will change. We'll go back to other centuries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think clearly the regulations is one of the biggest factors according to your answer here. But may I ask Mr. Polis Hajioannou the same question a little bit different way? What stands out as the single biggest factor shaping today's shipping market compared to what it was, let's say, 3 years ago?
I think the worst of the shipping market were the years between 2014 and 2020 and the start of the COVID. I think that the last 4 or 5 years is a decent market if we exclude the period of the tariffs and on the dry bulk, of course, and it is on other sectors. Containers, a supermarket with COVID and many liner companies buying their own ships and reducing the supply of ships in the market. And of course, with the Russian war in Ukraine, it's a big market for the tanker business. So we are running a period of good rates, of good returns, if we exclude the last 9 months with the tariffs. And the risk is there and it's increasing. Some companies will reduce our risk by simply taking decisions. I'm not going to trade in the Black Sea. I'm not going to trade in the Baltic, in Russia. I'm not going to pass the Red Sea. In our company, because we are called also safe bulkers, I took all those decisions and we excluded all those areas. We are not very in favor or very favorable to our charterers. I remember in 2023, when the first vessel was hit in the Red Sea in December 23, I immediately turned away 7 vessels from heading to that area, much to the complaints of my charterers at the time. And I say, guys, look, we're not going to go there, turn the ships around. And one of the charterers threatened me to take me to the court to do this and the other. I say, okay, the ship is in the middle of the Atlantic, load it in St. Lawrence, going to China. Was in the middle of the Atlantic. I say, okay, if you don't want to turn it back, let her go, and I will decide if I pass or not pass when you are outside port side. So immediately he turned it back, and he had a 2 days deviation. He paid instead of paying 20 days deviation later on. And when they were asking the question, why are you doing this? You are not trading Israel. You have nothing to worry. I say, no, we are listed in the US and we will be targeted. Of course, I didn't know that 2 months later they will hit another listed company ships. I say, I don't want to go. And basically, we try to reduce the risk we have that way. Of course, this is not the normal way of doing. Most people take those chances. They get rewarded handsomely, and this is good because it creates a market, and these ships stay away from other cargoes. So the ships that they don't trade in those countries, they make a living from better money they will receive a bit later on from the other markets. So there's a market for everyone, and it's a question of how much risk you are prepared to take. And of course, it's a different level of risk each person can take. I remember my uncle in the 80s, he was taking all the risk any ship owner could take because he was that type of character. Other characters are different, and we don't like to take almost no risks. But it's a market that fits in for everyone, and you just select what type of mode of risk you want to take.
Thank you very much. Mr. Mouskas, can I address the same question to you? According to you, what stands out as the biggest factor shaping today's shipping market compared to 2 or 3 years ago?
The biggest factor affecting the shipping market?
Yes. Yeah. Today's shipping market, yes.
Yeah. Well, as Andreas pointed out, the biggest factor is regulations. That's what's going to affect us the most. And of course, the wars, they do have an effect, but sometimes a positive effect. The fact that we couldn't go through the Red Sea actually helped the market. I think the freight rates were higher for capes and definitely for containers and tankers. I think we have to be careful with these regulations, because if they impose these high taxes because we can't find this phantom fuel that's supposed to be available. It's not available. We have to burn heavy fuel oil. And the best way is, as they said, as George Badella said before, is to build ships which are more efficient. So, we can build ships that can have half the CO2s of 10, 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And that's the best way forward. We can't all of a sudden go to zero when we don't have any fuel, any alternative. So that's the only thing we can do. And I think ship owners just have to carry on investing in whatever they think is the most viable ship that can trade on the market. You can't think, I have to build a ship that takes methanol or ammonia or whatever.
Can I add?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
I take the opportunity from what George just said about the consumption. Very few people realize that from the 1970s, in 1970s, we had 12,000 deadweight ships burning something like 24, 25 tons of fuel. Today, we have come with a pure competition among us. No intervening, no intervention by anyone, no regulation, nothing. We came to have capes of 182,000, now the new ones, deadweight, burning exactly the same at 12 knots. So the ton mile, by pure competition, left alone from all these regulations, we manage a 93% reduction of emissions. So is that an industry that needs regulation when it comes to emissions? So that explains the role of the, what you call them, the lobbyists.
Ah, right.
That's all the doing of the lobbyists. It's nothing to do with common sense or with nature or with climate change or with emissions. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, can I go now to Mr. Pittas again? And based on what we have discussed so far, how should investment decisions be approached in this uncertain market?
As I said initially, the market is extremely uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen within the next months or year or couple of years. And we as ship owners, we have to decide if we're going to order a new ship which is going to last for 20 years. So you imagine how difficult that decision is. I really can't tell you today if the fuel of the future will be LNG, if it will be nuclear, if it will be ammonia, if it will be e-methane, if it will be hydrogen, batteries. The current fuel is still a possibility that we still have it after 30 years. I think we discard this option, but it might come again. I've seen things in my life, change upside down many times. Carbon capture can help it, even without carbon capture. So there are so many unknowns which make it extremely difficult to decide and order a ship. And yet I catch myself saying, I have to order a ship. I've made a lot of money during the last 5 years. We have to do something. So our company is building some new ships, conventional fueled with LNG ready. LNG ready just means that you spend a little bit of money so that you can put an LNG tank on it and the equipment necessary to run the engine efficiently. This is an option. Now you pay very little if you decide to do it at the point when it becomes, if it becomes the fuel of the future, then you will have to make a further investment. So this is what we're doing. I am surprised with myself that I'm placing these orders, really, because the uncertainty is so huge. And today, listening to everybody, I felt even more uncertain. But we have a listed companies. We need to grow them gradually. The importance is to always keep a very strong balance sheet. Don't overinvest. Don't go to extremes. Be moderate and follow the trend. There was a lot of discussion today about the adaptability of shipping, and I really believe that we all have companies that are very adaptable to change. We are looking forward to what's going to happen. I'm not trying to predict what will happen, but I'm trying to adapt to the changes that happen. So that's the way we're looking at it.
Thank you so much. Mr. Mouskas, can I also address the same questions to you if you had something to add? I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we are, at the moment, as far as we're concerned, the new building prices are very high. And so we're not looking at new buildings, and also the delivery is a long way ahead. But we are definitely looking to purchase modern second-hand vessels if we can find them. The market is quite hot at the moment, so you can't even find those. But if we order today, probably we will go for conventional fuel, and maybe with the LNG option, like Aristides said. But I certainly wouldn't order with any other type of fuel. For example, methanol ready or ammonia. So I think it will be more conventional fuel.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Hajioannou, I cannot avoid not addressing these questions to you, knowing your investment on the methanol fuel vessel. So a little bit different tone is what we're looking here.
Yes, everyone is laughing at that. For that, and that gives me confidence that it's a good investment. In 2018, when we made the decision to install 25 scrubber on board our bigger ships, everyone was wondering why we do that. The fuel is not available. Why you change the rules? Why you burn something that will not be provided by the bunkering companies, by the oil majors? And we all knew that the regulation would have changed, and we had a specific date that the regulation would apply, 1st of January of 2020. It was coming. The only decision we took, and it was the right decision, we made the decision in the spring of 2018 to order 25 scrubbers from Alfa Laval, because we had Posidonian that year, and I knew that everyone else would go and get those slots for 2019 during Posidonia. So we took that bet, and when after Posidonia, 1 month after Posidonia, Alfa Laval came and started pushing back our deliveries to fit in other people who were blaming me and saying that we were doing a bad investment by investing on scrubbers. And of course, despite the COVID, this was an investment that paid very well. We've done the highest margin we've done between HFO and VLSFO in July 21 was $611 on a shipment from Vancouver to South China. There was a huge difference between HFO and VLSFO in the Hong Kong on those days. We locked in a spread of $611. So when other people are criticizing a decision like that, provided you do it in a small scale, we didn't go to order, on 20 new buildings, on all of them methanol, dual fuel. We ordered only on two vessels. We paid a price I consider reasonable, and irrespective of what we heard in the morning, and George Pateras said that this fuel will not be available. We know that there are two mega projects in South China, in Shenzhen, and one in Mongolia. The Chinese are making for biofuel and green methanol. They want to stop their dependence on fossil fuel, and the target is for the domestic shipping to become carbon neutral by 2030. And this is the Chinese who are ordering all their big container ships now that they build in China with dual fuel methanol. So I don't know that these ships in next year, when we get them, end of this year we get them, if we will find green methanol, or what price this green methanol will be. But the fact that we have this optionality will give us some confidence that 2029, 2030 possibly, these ships will be in a very big demand. So we'll have two ships available there. We will be trading the spot market. Of course, if our bet was wrong, we have nothing to lose. We will employ them in the fossil fuel, with the fossil fuel, with the VLSFO. And we will keep going with that until the time that methanol will be readily available. So it's a calculated bet, and people now talking about LNGs, and the LNG is costing much more than the methanol dual fuel. You need bigger ships to apply the LNG, like Newcastle Maxis. The cost could be $20 million extra. The last time I checked was 20 million. Now could be 25. I don't know. Why to make this investment for something that is not certain? So our investment at the time was around 5 million per vessel, and it's like a silent investment, and we see if it will pay off. If it doesn't pay off, we are still okay.
Yeah, Thank you very much for this point of view, but I would like also to address that I think the industry wants the service experience from vessels with these alternative fuels, which actually we don't have. So if we don't have first-time movers taking that, let's say, calculated risk, and all this experience is brought back to the industry, then we may start looking at a more global solution. Thank you. So I would like to now go, I mean, it's unavoidable, but we need to go back a little bit on the regulatory aspects in maritime, and I would like to basically, from what Mr. Hadjiyiannis said about the crisis, I feel that sometimes with the regulations we are creating our own crisis. Everything else you mentioned, we were reactive to the crisis. But nevertheless, I think now we see more and more industry leaders calling for a pragmatic, global aligned regulatory framework, while discussions about maritime responsibility for energy security are intensifying. With these questions in mind, are we shaping the future of Greek and Cypriot shipping in the right way? May I ask Mr. Hadjiyiannis?
Yeah, I think we're trying to do nothing, so we are on the right way. It's as simple as that. Listen, we have to be realistic. What are we talking about here? We're talking about CO2 in the atmosphere. Right. How much? First of all, CO2 is not a poisonous thing. Right. Without CO2, we won't have any forest. Have we realized that? We're not. The temperature of the globe is going to go to minus 18%. Can we live in a climate like that? So we need CO2. The question, the problem is that we won't double as much as the natural sinks take from the atmosphere. CO2 takes from the atmosphere. But what is shipping comes into all that? Shipping emits 2 to 2.5% of the footprint CO2. It comes from footprint, from man activities. So if you put this into perspective, I heard the other one saying it, putting it like this, and I laughed. We're talking about 1/50 of 10%, of half of 1% of the atmosphere. If you follow the mathematics, that means 1 part in 1 million parts. This is 1 centimeter, if you want to put it in centimeters, in 1 million centimeters. To do what? To change the climate? All this lack common sense, so there will not be an end for it. And I'm very pleased I hear Trump the other day scrapping the whole lot in the States. Soon we're all going to scrap it. But this is the whole lot, not the 0.25%, not the 0.25%, the 0.25% of the 10%, right, that shipping is responsible
accountable
for. So by doing nothing, and George said, or you said you're going to order ordinary, regular. I think it's the right decision.
Yep. Thank you very much. Mr. Pittas, can I ask the same questions to you? I mean, are we shaping the future of Greek Cypriot shipping in the right way?
Well, to be honest, we don't have a lot of control, unfortunately, on how regulations are decided. On the IMO, there's how many countries, I don't know, 157 countries or whatever, that vote. Greece has one vote, Cyprus has one. Those votes are influenced by what the European Union wants, so it's difficult to voice them. We don't really have the capacity to change things, but I think that because the US decided that they wanted to scrap this new IMO regulation, the fact that we were there to voice an industry concern about it helped them take the decision and resulted in getting this postponement of the IMO net zero framework for October. We will see what will happen in October, but still I believe the way that the US is thinking about it, Greece, Cyprus are thinking about it, but also now many other industrial parties and shipping parties are voicing their concern against it. Because the main issue we all have, and I think this is what you have to understand, is that we don't want the IMO, the International Agency for Setting the Rules, becoming a bank, as Andreas said, and getting all these billions of dollars. It doesn't help decarbonization. It doesn't help in anything. It just puts another burden on us, but we pass it on to the charter and the charter to the consumer. So I think that as an industry, both Greek and Cypriot shipping are standing up to their role because we are, the biggest part of international shipping. The Greek fleet, owned fleet, is the biggest in the world just after China that overpassed us. And I think I want to say this as well. The fact that Greece, a small country, controls shipping so much is something which is very important in the global interconnection. Because imagine if if the US were in our position, having such a big fleet as we have, and China on the other side, I'm sure we would have come up to a war. The fact that some small countries have this power has helped keep politics out of shipping up to now. And I hope we don't get too much into this new, battle between the various countries for dominance.
Thank you. That's a very interesting view. Actually, I would like, at this point, I cannot help it but quote what was mentioned during the Capital Link in Athens, that US is not trying to kill NZF, but the NZF may affect seriously the reputation of IMO. So then, but except of the IMO and NZF, I think now we have an experience about the EU regulations, and here probably is worth discussing about what is the commercial and operational impact of EU having been implemented so far. And basically the question is whether in practice the commercial operator is responsible for the emissions, which is not always the same entity legally liable to surrender the allowances to the administrating authority. Are we talking about the misalignments, undermining the polluter pays principle, Mr. Hadjiyiannis?
That's a very good question. But before going into that, I want to add something about the IMO, you said. IMO is primarily, and the reason for it is for technical safety and pollution at seas. And that's why it's been doing so well. Once we go into billions of dollars, then we're gonna be the prey of the lobbyists. And that's what we're facing. So IMO, if it doesn't get out very fast of these billions of dollar handling, as if it's the World Bank, it's going to be destroyed completely. Now, coming to the ETS, we dealt with in the past with the ETS that go ages back, many, many years, decades, when the European Parliament voted that all the factories, basically, will have to be incentivized to use cleaner energy. So the factories that they were using coal, they will go into fuel, from fuel into the better fuel and into renewable energy or to electricity and so on. Shipping was out because of the reason I just explained, because basically so little, negligible, and because it's self-regulated. The answer the economists say to all the problems is the competition. And in shipping, we have the perfect competition. So it's an industry that has all the answers. And it doesn't need any regulation of this kind. But at the end, they said we have to have shipping, imply ETS on shipping. Thanks God, the previous minister arranged for a webinar. It was a COVID time period. And it had to be done on a webinar and heard all over the world. We had the European Parliament personality for the person for the subject. We had the European Commission on the subject. So we expressed all the views. And then we came up and we said, okay, how can it be implemented on shipping? How this idea, this factor can be implemented in shipping? And we came to the simple logic, I think. Suppose you are an importer in Germany and you want to buy grain. Right? You have many choices. You can buy from next to you, France. You can buy from Ukraine. You can buy from Canada. You can buy from US Gulf. You can buy from Argentina. Or you can buy it from Australia. From where you buy it, there is a hell of a difference on emissions. So you are the controlling mind. The operator is a controlling mind. If you're going to go through the Suez, or if you're going to go through the Cape of Good Hope, or Cape Town, it's your decision, and that will have an effect on emissions. The owner, the master, there's nothing he can do. So the polluter pays principle must apply to the decision maker. Who does the decision maker is the polluter. So the polluter plays principle. And we agree. In the process, they came out with a ship owner to be responsible for it. So we complained, and they said, okay, next revision, we will look into it. So now is the next revision. We burden now a new minister to do all he has to do in the committee and try to put everything back to where it belongs, to the actual polluter, so that things can be done properly and fairly. Now, you have the charters. I don't know if they are still here.
I think they are in the bar.
But they say, for instance, we're only responsible from where the ship is chartered and where the ship is delivered. Not what European Union says from the last port of call to the next port of call. So it comes back, a large part comes back on the owner. And there is one more thing I need to mention here. You know that we have on ships now more and more AMPs. AMPs, don't know what it is for those who are not familiar, is alternative marine power, which means when we go into port, like the yachts, you plug it out and you get electricity, which electricity can be produced from clean energy, right? Renewable energy, or from, you mentioned before, the nuclear plants, which it makes a hell of a lot more sense to build, to supply a whole town rather than every individual small ship and every individual tank. That doesn't make sense. I don't know why people are talking about this stupid thing. One can produce enough for a whole country, one plant. You're going to have one on every small boat with the crew, the way they are trained to run nuclear reactors. It makes no sense. The European Union penalizes the ship for what it burns in the port, even though you have the AMP, and the port is not pressed to supply, to put the supply in place to save it. That's the discrimination when it comes to shipping and to the European regulators.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. That's interesting, and obviously we are not talking about only ETS, we're talking about also the fuel EU Maritime, and based on what we heard so far, the question is, are these policies perceived as environmental incentives to accelerate decarbonization, or becoming more, or there is a risk of becoming more of a revenue-raising tool? I don't know who would like to take that question.
I think that it is a revenue-raising tool. I mean, it's the decarbonization. They use it as an excuse, but it's really because the countries, most of the European countries, are in heavy debt. I mean, a lot of them, even the bigger countries, you take France, you take Germany, you take UK, they have such high levels of debt that they need to raise as much revenue as possible. And this is one way of raising revenue, and they show it as a green measure. So it's definitely a revenue-raising thing. And the difference is that I think what politicians haven't realized, that if we continuously are taxed in this way, it has to go to the end user, to the consumer. The consumers in Europe already are struggling. In every country, nobody can live with the cost of living. The prices are going up much higher than wages. And can you imagine now if there's a massive increase in electricity bills, what would happen? I mean, there'll be civil unrest. And you can see already that that's happening in Europe, and they're fighting against the domestic net zero because it's costing so many billions to do it that they're fighting against that. Never mind have the addition of the shipping net zero. So I think there's going to have to be a major rethink by politicians in a few years' time.
Yeah, thank you so much. Mr. Pittas, you mentioned on your previous answer about the important role in maintaining a balance with Greece controlling, majority of shipping. That's considering what we have seen about all these regulations. Do you foresee what will be the future of European shipping, the strategic looking ahead to 2030 and beyond, with having this kind of, let's say, initiatives and any risk of losing the tonnage to other...
Yes. I think we as an industry, Greece, Cyprus, Malta, we have a very significant role to play to explain to Europe, to try to explain to Europe how important shipping is for the world equilibrium. We cannot live without it. This is one of the biggest strengths of Europe, the fact that Europe essentially controls shipping worldwide. So this power we have as Europe to understand it. Instead of taking measures to protect and even help European shipping grow, the measures that are taken in the idea, in the concept of environmentalism, are creating obstacles. As I said before, I don't fear the obstacles. The obstacles create inefficiencies, and the inefficiencies make the things better for ship owners. But for Europe, we need to keep being the strongest part in the world economy as far as connecting people is concerned. And this is something that we may risk losing, because if it becomes more economic and more efficient for people like me or Polis or Andreas or George to move our offices to Dubai, because that way we will be able to run our operations better, it will affect Europe as a whole. So I am afraid that the restrictive measures that concern only Europeans are definitely the opposite of what should be happening.
Thank you so much. I think we have covered a lot of aspects already, and cautious a little bit of the time. I would like to address the final question to Mr. Polis Hajioannou. Regarding if we start looking ahead 3 to 5 years from now, we are looking for a positive message, but let's take it a little bit different. Let's say what a decision that you can think of that the ship owner will regret for not taking out today.
I think you have to take it as it comes. You don't know what will happen in 3 months or in 6 months. You don't know who will be the president in China or in the US in 3 or 5 years' time. So what we do, we try to improve the efficiency of our fleet. We keep going and trying to, when ships become uneconomical, to operate them, sell and replace them with new ones, and keep the footprint as low as possible. This over time yields profits. You have to be patient. We cannot have super profits when you go on new buildings, but you have good profits for a longer period of time. And, over the years we made very good decisions. We made very bad decisions sometimes. Usually it's when we make a decision and we are 100% sure that it will be a great deal and a great decision, it's the opposite. It's a bad decision. And whenever we have doubts, like Aristides said before, I ordered 5 new buildings. How many? 5 new buildings. And he's wondering if he made a mistake. Usually when you wonder if you made a mistake and you are ready to change your mind, usually it's a good deal in the end. So when you do something, you stick to it. And when you are in doubt, do it. And most of the times it should be a good decision. But shipping, we don't know what will be next month. We don't know what the market will be, who will be in a war, who will not be in a war, which area of the ocean, of the sea you can trade, which area you cannot trade, what will be the emission control measures in the various continents. So everything is unknown. So you just keep on going, doing your own plan, and one day you get paid off. So long, of course, you control your balance sheet, and you make sure that you may buy an expensive ship, you may order an expensive ship. At the same time, you have to sell expensive old ships before their price drop. So, I mean, there's not a simple answer. Maybe Andreas and Aristides, they want to add up to that.
I just want to say, Leonidas, this wasn't a very good question. I will regret having ordered 5 vessels if the market is bad, and I will regret not having made them 10 if the market is good. So who knows what the future is, but as long as you take rational decisions that you have thought through, and you have more correct decisions than wrong, you will be okay. I want to close by saying Roger Federer, the famous tennis player, you know how many points he won. He won so many championships, but he only won 56% of the points he played, which means that, you know, if you're a little bit, if you have to take some risks, if most of them work, you will be okay.
Okay, thank you so much. So basically, ladies and gentlemen, I think we heard many interesting things. According to my notes, good timing is a key. If something is thought through, then there's nothing to regret. We definitely discuss about how challenging the regulations are and we need to be careful. Adapting is very important. What a key takeaway is that we need to be careful and adapt to the market. I don't think I have missed anything, but there's one key takeaway for myself, if you allow me. Obviously, I'm not a ship owner. I will never be able to play good tennis as Federer, but I take Mr. Hadjiyiannis' comment that art made 350% profit on average, so maybe I have better luck on arts. Thank you very much. Please, a round of applause.